Governor Soso and Secretary Kali charged for contempt. CS ex-servicemen push for pension payments. And PNG Navy ships return from Indonesia.
This is National EMTV News with Mary Bartolo.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for Monday's news. Eastern Highlands Governor Julie Soso and John Kali, the Personnel Management Department Secretary, have been charged for contempt by the Waigani Supreme Court this morning. This comes after Alvin Inamoy was appointed acting provincial administrator after the court rejected a previous nominee, Samson Akunai, and despite orders to reinstate Solomon Tato as the provincial administrator.
The Supreme Court has also charged Samson Akunai, the NEC-appointed acting PA, and Alvin Inamoy for contempt of court. Deputy Chief Justice Segib Salika charged the four for contempt because they did not follow a court decision that he issued on April 8 this year. The orders in the decision restrains all parties involved in the legal battle over the PA's position to not appoint a new PA and to not interfere with the way Tato is running the PA's office. On April 19, the Supreme Court cited the four, including Public Service Minister Sepuka Temu, for contempt following a contempt proceeding. The four are now on a 1,000 kina bail. Their bail conditions include the four to be present for all hearings and to report to the Waigani or Goroka National Courts Registry every fortnight Fridays. When the case returns to court, the court will decide whether the contempt case will go for a trial. Thakla Gunga, National EMTV News.
Police Commissioner Gary Baki has been summoned to explain in court the temporary closure of the National Fraud and Anti-Corruption Directorate. Deputy Chief Justice Gibbs Salika issued the directions after the fraud case involving Bogia MP John Hickey was delayed because of the closure of the NFANC office. This case was supposed to be heard in Madang this week. This is the second time the Waigani National and Supreme Courts have asked Baki to justify his actions, despite court orders restraining him from taking such actions. Baki will be addressing the court tomorrow morning. University of Papua New Guinea students are maintaining a strong political stance on issues confronting the country. As they boycott classes today, a barricade was set up at the main entrance, preventing all members of the public access into the university as they gather to discuss their next step while collecting signatures on a petition they will present to the Prime Minister and Police Commissioner. These are the messages they have on the fence at different entrances to the university. An official statement with demand is expected to be released soon, with an indication on how long they intend to continue the boycott. More than 200 ex-servicemen gathered in front of the Correctional Service headquarters in Port Moresby to voice their grievances over outstanding pension payments. They say a national court order is in place for the Correctional Institution's administration to pay 246 ex-servicemen. Commissioner Michael Waipo and his executives met with the men this morning to hear their grievances. Eric Harupma with this report.
President Richard Odaku, speaking on behalf of these ex-servicemen, said they had served in the institution for over 30 years and now they have not been paid their pensions.
Court ordered him on 31st January 2016. 246 members will come on pension. Then people are waiting, come. Now it's now 5th month of 2016.
He said during Bougainville crisis the institution was understaffed and as a result they had to remain in the institution even though they were past retirement age. They claimed that in 2009 the matter was brought before the National Court and orders were granted for CS to pay their pensions. However, today they have not received any payments from the institution. Meanwhile, Commissioner Waipo, who was present this morning with his officers, said they will look into the matter and urged pensioners to work together with his officers to find a solution. Assistant Commissioner Personnel Management, Finance and Administration Michael Moseri said They have confirmed only 468 ex-servicemen members who will be paid pensions as soon as funds are available.
We have to find money elsewhere. Long, stretching all this like 246. Long next year, we can look budget long 246 plus all current pensioners.
However, the delay is because they have not been considered under the 2016 budget as allocated by the national government.
You know, straightening report, one tell me, now the officer blow me, you make him straight now by me. Go ahead long, processing all pensions.
Eric Arupman, National EMTV News.
More than 400 police women in the country are in lay for the 9th National Police Women's Conference. They started off the forum with a march from St. Mary's Primary School to the Nyal Oval, where they were addressed by Police Commissioner Gary Baki. The theme of the gathering is embracing modernization, empowering women and forging ahead. The meeting started today and will end on Friday.
These policewomen are from all over the country. They are in town to be part of the Policewomen Conference hosted in the province. This morning's parade got the city by surprise as the people gathered to witness the policewomen march proudly in their uniforms. Police Commissioner led a delegation of senior policemen to witness the occasion and to acknowledge the role policewomen play along with their male colleagues in the society.
Policewomen have come a long way in Papua New Guinea since 1997, as I recall, when only 12 young, brave, pioneer young women entered the gates of Bumana.
The conference will see various topics discussed, including health and HIV and AIDS, laws and their legal implications, as well as gender and sport. Mr. Baki hopes through this seminar, these women can embrace modernization and be empowered to make a turn in contributing to the RPNGC and the nation as a whole.
Women in policing are less likely to use excessive and deadly force.
The current number of policewomen in the country is less than 1,000, but there are plans in place to increase the number of policewomen. But Police Commissioner Gary Baki said this should not be a concern. Baki has instead challenged them to develop their capacity and to be tough as their male colleagues. Mata Luis, National EMTV News, Ley.
2 Papua New Guinea Defence Force Navy ships returned today from Indonesia after taking part in a successful 5-day Commodore exercise. They are HMPNGS Mosby and HMPNGS Drega, comprising of 38-member crew altogether. This is the second Commodore exercise hosted by Indonesia to engage naval personnel from multinational countries and a first for PNG to attend. Vasinatayama reports.
This is the first time that PNG Navy joined Indonesia in its second Commodore exercise 2016. The exercise was basically for them to know how to work together with navies from multinational countries in peacekeeping operations, humanitarian aid and disaster relief.
Through our participation was how to work together as navies from multiple nations to coordinate and conduct these operations in situation, language and all these things are a bit of a barrier, but we practice how to work together in terms of peacekeeping operations and humanitarian aid and disaster relief.
Today, they proudly re-entered our shores with their heads up, ready to impart their knowledge to colleagues.
Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! You have all behaved well whilst in Padang. You have done us proud in the fleet review. I was on board on one of the ships that sailed past. Unfortunately, we were not closer to you people, but you were acknowledged. Your presence there was acknowledged on the ship that I was on board.
They have gone down PNG's history book in the sea voyage. They sailed 6,000 nautical miles to and from Indonesia. Along the way, they lost communication. This has shown the need to have modern communication technologies. An outstanding role model was Lieutenant Liza Anthony, commanding officer of Drega from Hela province, who was commended for leading the men. According to his boss, it was not easy sailing 2 boats to Indonesia.
All the young folks of Hela, if you want to join the Navy, he's your role model. Follow him, and you can sail around the world.
However, this is what he had to say.
It's normal, it's nothing extraordinary. Anyone can do it, so yeah.
This is the first exercise for the PNG DF Navy for this year. 2 more exercises will come soon, in which Paradise exercise will be the next. For such more training to come later, support is needed from the government. Fasinata Yama, National MTV News.
You're watching National MTV News. We'll be back with more stories after these messages. Welcome back to National MTV News. In his final remarks before leaving our shores, India's President Pranab Mukherjee acknowledged the effects of climate change in the Pacific region. He said global warming and the uncertain climatic behavior is the result of the developed and industrial economies over several centuries. The remarks came just 2 weeks after Papua New Guinea signed the landmark Paris Agreement on climate change at the United Nations headquarters in New York.
President Mukherjee said the uncertainty in climatic behavior happening the world over is mainly because of mankind's contribution.
Whole world is expressing its concern today, and we share that concern. We are signatory to it in the Paris Declaration of Climate Change.
PNG's ambassador to the United States of America, His Excellency Rupa Mulina, was amongst the 175 world leaders who signed the landmark Paris Agreement on climate change at the UN General Assembly. During the Paris Agreement signing, Ambassador Mulina stated that like many Pacific small island developing states and others, climate change continues to be a serious threat to PNG. President Mukherjee also shared similar sentiments.
Climate change affects most the small island countries and its populations. Therefore, we shall have to make positive contribution in that way and in our developmental strategy.
President Mukherjee said countries must be ready to provide more for its people as well as provide for successive generations. He said developing technology that maintains the balance between development requirements and protection of the environment was crucial.
Without caring to maintain the balance and appropriate technologies, to have a harmonious relationship between the environmental protection and developmental requirement.
In the meantime, Ambassador Mulina also signed the International Cocoa Agreement 2010 at the UN Treaty Section Office of Legal Affairs in New York. With this agreement, the government is emphasizing its commitment to play its part in the international community, giving the significant economic and other benefits that cocoa brings to the people and the country. Deli Waigeno, National MTV News.
Students at the PNG University of Natural Resources and Environment have boycotted class this morning. This follows an ongoing tussle between the students and the university's administration that has dragged on for almost 3 years. Last week, student leaders presented a petition to the Minister for Higher Education, Research, Science and Technology, Malakai Tabar. The students demanded Minister Tabar to suspend the university's council members and the senior executives. They also issued a 5-day ultimatum for Minister Tabar to address their petition, which did not eventuate. Today, they carried out the boycott. The series of boycotts over the years have centered on alleged mismanagement at the university. The Unitec Student Representative Council have reaffirmed their demands for the National Fraud Squad Director, Matthew Damaru, and his officers to be reinstated by the Police Commissioner Gary Baki and for Prime Minister Peter O'Neill to step down. The Unitec student body has put pressure on its Student Representative Council to come out and make the 2 calls after discussions in their 22 provincial groups. Unitec students are wary of the declining state of the economy and the difficulties they will face securing a job after studies and the negative effects it's having on their families. The students will hold an awareness march this Wednesday.
Reinstate. The Commissioner must reinstate ASAP, as soon as possible, the fraud squad so that they do their job. That's what we are really saying here. And regarding the economy, it's because of the management of the resources that we have. So the government must be held responsible for that. We are not managing the resources that we have. That's why you can see that the effect is being felt by what? People, the community, the working class, the students, our parents at home. So they are feeling the pain of what is really happening. So we have the students a petition on Friday that the Prime Minister must respond to that, is responsible for that. So he must step down. That's what the students will.
A new exciting challenge for Morobe cocoa farmers to maintain consistent quality has emerged following international recognition of the cocoa quality produced by farmers along the Watut River. The International Cocoa Excellence Award was given to Watut farmers in France in October. Watut cocoa was pitted against the world's producers from Africa, Asia and Latin America. Now the Cocoa Board is working with farmers to maintain quality and consistency.
The last 5 years has been a time when Morobe farmers have reaped what they sowed over the last decade. In cooperatives, they worked hard towards producing volumes to meet international export requirements. In October last year, the farmers were given a Cocoa Excellence Award in Paris for the quality of the cocoa they produced. Now the challenge is to maintain that quality.
Best practices are required in coming up with the best quality that the market requires, that the market wants.
With the onset of the cocoa pod borer disease, cocoa production dropped significantly, with East New Britain being the hardest hit. The central bank figures showed a drop in production between 2012 and 2013, reflecting the onset of the disease. In 2014, the recovery began. One of the biggest problems affecting the exports is transportation. Many of the farmers are located in remote parts of the country, and getting their crop to a market can take days. In Morobe, cocoa production is expected to rise as extension work is revived by the PNG Cocoa Board.
The future for Morobe looks very bright. Morobe has the land, they have the labor, they have the people, and the area coverage for cocoa is so wide. And in Morobe, we've increased from 2,000 over the years to almost 4,000 tons now in Morobe province exactly.
Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Ley.
Air Niugini customers can now purchase their tickets through BSP's mobile banking. This was announced today at the launch of the Air Niugini ticket payment via Bank South Pacific mobile banking. Air Niugini General Manager, Customers and Market, Dominic Kaumu, said this service will save time and money, especially for the rural population who need to get to town to purchase tickets.
Air Niugini has launched a new project with Bank South Pacific today to make ticket purchasing more convenient for customers through mobile banking. Air Niugini's Group General Manager, Customer and Market, Dominic Kaumu, says Air Niugini is focused on looking at opportunities to enhance business through delivering the best customer service.
So it's about improving on the way we deliver our services and making it easier for our customers.
This is a new added feature to Bank South Pacific's mobile banking. Group General Manager, Retail Banking, Peter Thornton, said the e-ticket SMS banking project took more than 12 months to develop with Air Niugini.
Look, I just think that this is an example of innovation in Papua New Guinea. Sometimes we feel as though, we're following the rest of the world, but in fact, we're out there leading the rest of the world. I don't think that there's too many countries around the world that offer this service.
The process requires the customer to get a booking reference from Air Niugini, so that can be obtained through the Air Niugini website, or you can call up Air Niugini customer service and then of course give them your information and they give you a booking reference. So with that booking reference you can go to your BSP mobile banking, which you will have to first of all register for, and then you can make the payment.
The new service is effective today and is open to all centers throughout the country, given customers must first be registered under the BSP mobile banking. The feature is open to all BSP account holders. Marilyn Diaukatam, National EMTV News.
And now a look at our finance news. The Kina opened unchanged at $0.3175 in the interbank market. At Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying 0.3100 US dollars, 0.4046 Australian dollars, 0.2676 euro, and 32.84 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold, coffee, and cocoa closed higher, while copra closed the day lower. Palm oil and copper closed higher, while crude oil closed the day lower. And on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 57 points lower, the ASX closed 15 points lower, and the All Ordinaries closed 9 points lower. You're watching National MTV News. After the break, some news from overseas. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news. Turning overseas now, and the war in Syria has witnessed one of the more shocking instances of violence. An airstrike hit a hospital in rebel-held Aleppo, killing dozens of people. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says the Syrian government is to blame. It denied that claim on state media. The CCTV footage obtained showed the strike as it happened inside the hospital.
This is a silent film, but you begin to imagine the sounds. The CCTV cameras outside the hospital in the rain and inside are unflinching observers of what is about to unfold. The clocks on the screen are an hour out. It is 9:38 on Wednesday evening, and the Al-Quds hospital is shaken by an explosion nearby. Some people head downstairs expecting casualties to arrive. That turns out to be a deadly mistake. No one you can see here has any idea that this hospital is seconds away from becoming a target itself. The choice of where to go, left or right, up or down, seals their fate. The man in green is Dr. Mohammed Muaz, leaving the intensive care unit. He is 36 years old and he's the last pediatrician in Aleppo. He's already done one day shift at another hospital and is in the middle of the night shift in this one. He is single and his parents have fled to Turkey. He was looking forward to visiting them a few days later. We don't know exactly where he has now gone, but we do know his fate. At 9:42 and 12 seconds, the hospital is hit. Same explosion, different camera. Minutes after the dust clears, the survivors emerge. The ghostly image of a nurse carrying a child or a baby from the maternity ward. Civilians milling around in a daze, taking on the tasks of the nurses who've been killed or injured. Dr. Muaz is now dead, and so are 50 others. Nurses, patients, visitors. As the smoke clears, the road outside emerges as a field of rubble. Since then, 2 more hospitals have been hit, and yesterday one of Aleppo's main medical storage facilities. In this case, 4 CCTV cameras bear silent witness.
In the U.S. race for the White House, Donald Trump has made immigration a major part of his presidential campaign, and he's done it using harsh rhetoric. But despite that, the Republican frontrunner has support from some Latinos.
We went under a fence and through a fence, and oh boy, I felt like I was crossing the border, actually.
You've heard it before, a controversial comment on immigration by Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
It's remarks like this about Mexico that's inspired a new wave of Latino activism, both for and against the candidate.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
At a Trump event in Janesville, Wisconsin in March, we meet Miguel Fajardo, an adamant Trump supporter.
What do you say to those, Miguel, who are going to watch this and say, I cannot believe that he's supporting Donald Trump? What do you say to those people?
Oh, those people, because there's people that that's illegal in the United States. Because all the legal immigrants, they're both Trump.
Fajardo says he immigrated from Mexico to the U.S., quote, the right way, legally. Now a U.S. citizen, he says Trump has empowered him, emboldened him even, to speak up and speak out against illegal immigration.
Yeah, they build the walls. I have a key to come in the right way. You have to come in the right way.
I can't believe about those Latino people support Donald Trump, because those people they forgot where they come from, you know.
For the Flores family, with Donald Trump surging in the polls, they say it is a battle of survival. While their 4 children were born in the U.S., parents Jose and Maria entered the country illegally. Under a Trump presidency, they fear their family will be broken up. Because of Trump, the Flores family and many others like them have stepped up their activism for undocumented immigrants. In an act of symbolism and pride, they say, at rallies, they wave both the Mexican and American flags.
I think that everyone just wants to be proud of where they came from, but also wants to be a part of the United States.
And we represent, we are united.
The next president of the United States, Mr. Donald J. Trump.
Should Trump actually become the next president, he will likely do so with the help of Latinos, something Mexican supporter Miguel Fajardo says won't be a problem.
He's the only one who can open the door and take it out all the bad stuff for the White House.
The Flores family couldn't disagree more.
I want to send a message to Donald Trump. My children's make America great.
Not Donald Trump.
Not Donald Trump.
Without question, in 2016, Donald Trump has inserted immigration as a defining issue in the presidential cycle. Of the 11 million undocumented immigrants in this country, Latinos make up more than half. And at 17% of the overall U.S. population, Latinos are now present in every state. They are the largest minority group in half of those states. Latinos certainly have the capacity to reshape the American political system, and they are using their voices to be more vocal, both for and against Donald Trump.
Celebrities, journalists and politicians all mingled at the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner. This was the final time Barack Obama attended the dinner as president. Taking on the role of comedian-in-chief, Mr. Obama poked fun at himself and other politicians, including his fellow Democrats. No one was spared for the jokes and jabs.
You gotta admit it, though. Hillary trying to appeal to young voters is a little bit like your relative who just signed up for Facebook. Yeah? Dear America, did you get my poke? I am hurt, though, Bernie, that you've been distancing yourself a little from me. I mean, that's just not something that you do to your comrade. Some candidates aren't polling high enough to qualify for their own joke tonight. They say Donald lacks the foreign policy experience to be president. But in fairness, he has spent years meeting with leaders from around the world. Miss Sweden, Miss Argentina, Miss Azerbaijan. Ted had a tough week. He went to Indiana, Hoosier country, stood on a basketball court and called the hoop a basketball ring. What else is in his lexicon? Baseball sticks, football hats. But sure, I'm the foreign one.
Relations between Cuba and the United States have taken another step forward. For the first time in almost 40 years, U.S. Carnival cruise ships with American tourists on board set sail for Havana.
The first U.S. to Cuba cruise in nearly 4 decades is finally underway. One more step towards greater ties between the U.S. and its communist-run neighbor. Some of the 700 passengers aboard Carnival's Fathom line say they feel like they're making history.
My grandmother went way back in the day before it was ever closed, and so just being able to go there and meet the people and see the people, it'll be meaningful to us.
But it's been anything but smooth sailing for the week-long cruise that will make 3 stops in Cuba. Cuban Americans protested at Carnival's Miami headquarters after the company said that Cuban law prevented Carnival from accepting bookings from anyone born in Cuba. The island's government says the restrictions on Cubans traveling aboard boats were in place to prevent Cubans from making the often dangerous journey to the United States. Facing growing public outcry, Carnival said it would delay the cruises until everyone could sail to Cuba. That's when the Cuban government did something completely unexpected and reversed their decades-old policy. Now, Cuban-born people who have passports issued by Cuba can travel to the island on cruise ships, and the Cuban government has said it will soon ease restrictions on private boats, and not a moment too soon for Carnival.
To be a part of being the first people to be able to sail from the U.S. to Cuba and back, including those who were born in Cuba, is a tremendous privilege and honor.
The Cuban government reversing course happens rarely, even less so to satisfy U.S. business concerns. But apparently opening to U.S. cruise companies and the potential earnings they would bring was just too good an opportunity for Cuba.
You're watching National EMTV News. After the break, all the sporting action in Trukai Sports. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. Visiting countries should not worry about security during the FIFA Women's Under-20 World Cup in November. Sports Minister Justin Chechenko said 15 international countries will be coming to Papua New Guinea for this big event, and the Sports Ministry will be working very closely with the police to ensure security.
Sports Minister Justin Chechenko said teams coming from 15 international countries will be in the country in November for the FIFA Women's Under-20. The minister said his ministry does recognize that security is still a big problem, and so they are involving police in this big event. Chechenko added the sports ministry is already working on the security measures and they will continue to develop it until November.
You know, Papua New Guinea, we have our difficulties in our country, and anybody that touches a woman should face the full front of the law.
Chechenko warned that anyone that breaks the law will face the full force of the law.
From the tourism aspect, selling their artifacts and goods to our international guests, showing them what is available from our different cultures and traditions of what they can buy and take home and remember their stay here in Papua New Guinea.
Meanwhile, the sports minister encouraged visitors to consider feathering the stay after the games, which will in turn boost our tourism industry. He said the sports ministry is working together with the Tourism Promotion Authority to make that happen. Dini Rose Raiko, National EMTV Sports.
The PNG Men's Basketball League has concluded round 1 of its season proper over the weekend. The semi-professional league will commence round 2 of the competition on Sunday, the 15th of this month, with only 2 rounds left to play before the finals in October.
PNG Men's Basketball League has ended round 1 of the 2016 season and will go into 2 weeks of break before starting round 2 on the 15th of this month.
So that's round 1 is finished, 5 games, round 1 pair round is 5 games, and then we go into round 2. So there will be 3-round competition. We still got 2 more left after this game.
PMBL Commissioner Larry Miro said the competition is divided into 3 rounds with 6 contesting teams. The winner of the 2 rounds will advance to the final playoffs in mid-October.
Basketball Federation of Papua New Guinea already mentioned, I think about 3 or 1 month ago, that there's going to be some teams coming up for basketball, so it's going to be a pretty good year.
Larry also highlighted that the tournament is now advancing into marketing the sport with the franchise teams taking part in the competition, and wide media coverage of regular games played may well improve the level of the sport moving forward in right direction.
At the very moment we're trying to market the game now. It's going to be a private, it's going to be a business like the NBA style of things. So we had our meeting with all the franchise on Friday. And some of the games will be, like the main games will be played on Saturdays and 2 games on Sundays. That's just to bring the crowd in. But at the moment we are picking up crowds when crowds normally come to watch their favorite team, so they come and they go.
While most of the PNG national men's side come from this competition, Larry noted that it is pleasing to see the positive momentum created in round 1 of this season is being continued as excitement starts to build for the next 2 rounds of the season. Shane Soroya, National EMTV Sports.
And we'll be back with more of Trukai Sports after the break. Stay with us.
Trukai Sports.
Welcome back to Trukai Sports. To football, and only days remain until the PNG men's national team travel to the People's Republic of Korea. The team is focused on doing the country proud. While the players are currently split between the Ley and Port Moresby, Coach Fleming Sirichlev and assistant coach Reginald Davani are confident the team will gel ahead of their match.
While the bulk of the national team come from both Hekara United and Ley City dwellers, Sirichlev has hinted that he regards other players outside of those big two teams capable of performing at the highest level.
It has really been a good experience for the players and also for me. Comparing our national team players to the national team players from the other teams in the region, I'm very confident that we can make good results when it comes to the Nations Cup.
Rapatona striker Patrick Isa had been a notable starter against the Solomon Islands, and with the form of both Tommy Sami and Raymond Gunemba and Nigel Dabinyaba as well, PNG will have no shortage of firepower up front. Sirichlev has noted the defensive frailties in most Pacific Island nations and will also be working on the PNG midfield's defensive abilities as they look to counter against the quality of opposition that the country will face, especially in the likes of New Caledonia, who will most likely employ French League players to bolster their squad.
Wonderful goal by Jean-Chris Wajoka.
There's one unknown factor when it's about New Caledonia. It's about how many players they will bring back for the Nations Cup from France, because we know that they have strong players playing in France, and they might be able to strengthen the team of Caledonia.
Concerns, however, were raised by football fans around the country after both national goalkeepers Ishmael Paul and Ronald Warrison were criticized during the OFC Champions League. But Sirichlev and co. have just over 3 weeks to rectify any problems that the team has identified. The full squad will assemble at the end of the week before they travel out to Korea by Saturday. Jeremy Mogi, National, EMTV Sports.
To Rugby League, and Kumul's coach Michael Marum has announced the withdrawal of back rower Rhys Martin from the team days away from the weekend's test match against the Fijian Bati. Martin, who withdrew from national duties due to personal reasons, will be replaced by Edward Goma. Goma will be the 11th SP Hunter in the Kumul's team. The team, along with coach Marum and manager Arnold Krewanti, departed for Cairns this morning and will later travel to Sydney to prepare for the test match, which takes place on Saturday. To some NRL news now, and in round 9, the Cronulla Sharks held off for a late finish against the Brisbane Broncos. The Broncos struggled from the kickoff, and this became evident by the 40th minute as they were trailing by 22 points. The halftime score was a true reflection of the Sharks' dominance, restricting the Broncos to just 413 running meters. Josiah Feki, Paul Gallen, James Maloney and Ched Townsend were the try scorers for the Sharks, who proved victorious in the end, closing the scoreboard at 30-28. In other matches, Melbourne Storm thrashed the Gold Coast Titans 38-0. And that ends Trukai Sports for today. We'll have the weather details after the break.
Trukai Sports. Trukai Sports.
Taking a look at the weather forecast for the next 24 hours, we begin in the southern region. Fine weather expected in Alotau and Popondetta. Brief showers in Daru and Kerma, and fine with early morning fog in Port Moresby. To the Momase region, Ley, Wau, Madang, Wewak and Vanimo, you can all expect fine weather over the next 24 hours. To the New Guinea Islands region, Lorengau, Kavieng, Kimbe and Boka, fine weather, and brief showers in Kokopo and Rabaul. And to the Highlands region, Mount Hagen, Goroka, Kundiawa, Mendi and Wabeg, fine weather over the next 24 hours. A look at the forecast for small ships. Waters of southern PNG Indonesian border through Torres Strait and Daru to Kiwai Island, Kerma to Yule Island to Hood Point to through Samarai Island, waters of Samarai Island to Cape Bogle to Finschhafen, and waters of Finschhafen through Vitia Strait to Long Island, including Siasi Islands and the Dampier Strait, sea 0.5 to 1.5 meters. Waters of Eastern and Western Milne Bay Islands, waters of Long Island to Madang, Bogia, Wewak, Aitape, Vanimo and northern PNG Indonesian border, waters of Manus and its western group of islands, and waters of New Island to New Britain and Bougainville, sea 0.5 to 1.3 meters. And a look at the ocean forecast for PNG areas. Coral Sea, seas light to moderate with southeasterly winds at 10 to 20 knots. Solomon Sea, seas light with southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Bismarck Sea, seas light with southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. And the Pacific Ocean, seas light with northwest to southeasterly winds at 10 to 15 knots. Before we go, recapping our main stories for tonight. Eastern Highlands Governor Julie Soso and Secretary of Department of Personnel Management John Kali charged for contempt. Correctional Service ex-servicemen push for pension payments, and PNG Navy ships return from Indonesia. And that's been the news, sports and weather for tonight, Monday the 2nd of May 2016. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team, I'm Mira Batulo. Pleasant viewing. Good night.